Well, there it is. 370 hours in this game. A small drop in the bucket compared to the most dedicated fans of New World, but in the 370 hours I spent in the game, I had quite a lot of fun. I remember launch week. I took off a whole week of work to play this game. It was really one of the first times in the past decade or so that I was genuinely excited to play a brand new MMORPG. I think I spent darn near every single day putting 8 to 10 hours in during that long week off, completing the main story quest, getting to max level, trying to max all my trade skills, weapon masteries. A few friends of mine also jumped in, and we were just having a blast running dungeons, playing Outpost Rush. Then it just sort of ended. I couldn't really pinpoint why we all stopped playing, really. The game was still a lot of fun for sure, but it felt like something was just sort of missing still. Something that would keep me logging in every single day. Now, New World's launch had a great amount of content. I easily put in 300 or so hours alone during that launch window, but endgame was admittedly lacking a bit still. So once you did everything, there wasn't really much incentive to keep going. So like a lot of other MMOs I tried, I hung my hat up in New World, eagerly awaiting a reason to jump back in. I checked out the Angry Earth expansion when that dropped, and had a bit of fun but quickly dropped again. Then more recently, I reinstalled the game and saw a ton of improvements that made me really want to start playing again. Movement felt way better, endgame was more fleshed out, obviously there was more content to sink my teeth into. It felt like now was a great time to jump back into New World. And with the brand new expansion Nighthaven dropping soon, me and that same friend group hopped right back in. I was excited to play New World again, like a lot of other people. The release of the Nighthaven expansion further proved that the game was on a redemption story. Tons of players flocked back to the game. There was plenty of influencers talking about how much the game improved. It was crazy to see how a game that seemed like it was on its last legs getting a second life. Then, just as everything seemed to be falling into place finally, we all got the news.
Amazon Game Studios, New World. It's dead. For real this time. No hyperbole, no clickbait.
The game is no longer going to be receiving updates. This news shocked me.
New World is not going to have any more content made for it. Now that is basically the definition of maintenance mode.
As this MMO closes, real people like you and I, are losing their jobs.
Feels kind of heartbreaking a little bit that this journey has come to an end.
I thought this game was on track to make a big comeback. Like 1 month ago I made my New World is different in 2025 video.
New World Eternal is no more. The game has received its final update with Season 10 Nighthaven, and I have a lot to say.
So yeah, as you can imagine, a lot of us are bummed. Which is understandably always the case when an MMO gets shut down. The community is going to be devastated that they are losing their game. Now, not all hope is lost. In the announcement, it is stated that the servers will be open through 2026, but let's be honest here. An announcement like this essentially puts a clock on the game's life. Players have already begun leaving in droves because ultimately, what's the point of continuing if Amazon has abandoned the project? What a massive shame. New World could have been one of the titans in the MMORPG genre. Sure, it had a rough launch year, and even through its fumbles though, it was finally starting to find its stride. Only to be killed. To add even more insult to injury, Amazon confirmed that they are pursuing AI efforts like a lot of other companies right now, dropping a trailer for the AI slop Courtroom Chaos, which has been pretty heavily ratioed on the Amazon Game Studios channel, with the comment section absolutely roasting Amazon. It just screams of corporate disconnect, a checkbox that has to be filled to appease the shareholders, only for it to ultimately fail to capture any sort of audience. It leaves so many of us just confused as to what happened here. The game was finally living up to some of its potential that so many of us saw in it. I think for those of us who actually played the game, we could tell you that New World had so much good in it. Sound design was immaculate, the combat was a lot of fun, the world it was building was so unique, and Man, there was just so much potential here. We've never really seen anything like this before, which is why it's just causing such a huge ripple in the MMO community. Typically, when an MMO enters maintenance mode and starts winding down, it's usually at its lowest in terms of population, but New World had evidence of players coming back in massive numbers. Steam charts alone would show that the game had peaked back to 50k players around the launch of Nighthaven, and that's just the Steam numbers. We can pretty much double that number if you factor in console. Positive word about the game was at an all-time high for it, but it still didn't matter. The game still sadly received this unfortunate end, and really the only hope we can have for it now is if Amazon sells the IP off to another company, or they reverse their decision. But at this point, all trust has been lost with Amazon games. Why would anyone believe that AGS would support a game for the long haul after this debacle? I fear for what will happen to the other AGS published titles like Throne and Liberty and Lost Ark. A topic I haven't seen be brought up yet. Is Amazon going to cut their publishing deal with those games too? MMORPGs were already in a rocky state. But think about it now. If New World couldn't succeed after being one of the first major Western MMORPGs in the genre for at least over a decade, why would any other publishers or companies even try to make an MMORPG at this point? New World sort of feels like the last Western AAA quality effort we are going to see from the industry for quite a while. MMORPGs are not easy to make, and they cost a lot of money, time, and effort to create. They also have a massive failure rate, and nowadays, if you don't come out the gate firing on all cylinders, it usually never recovers, especially in the modern day with social media coverage that will amplify a game's flaws to the 10th degree. So many games come out nowadays that never get a second chance, all because it had a bad start. It's a wonder that companies even bother making an MMORPG at all, with how much of a demand the genre has, and really the only Western-influenced design games that are in development currently are largely all indie titles like Pantheon, Ashes of Creation, or Monsters and Memories. And even those projects aren't getting much attention from the community, unfortunately, which is a sad truth. The only ones left developing Western MMORPGs nowadays are small indie developers that get largely ignored but still somehow keep going despite their struggles. The MMORPG genre is in such a depressing state right now. I don't even really know what to say. There's really not much to look forward to right now except for a lot of the Korean-influenced MMORPGs that tend to have a lot of the same mechanics and stuff that ties to the cash shop. Pay to win, that's the word I was looking for. I mean, jokes aside, I really do hope that Aeon 2, Chrono Odyssey, and Arcade are solid MMORPGs. In the meantime though, what are most of us playing? Games that have been around for decades, right? New World really provided something that felt like it could last for decades if it could overcome its issues. It sucks to think that in as little as a year or so, New World will not be playable potentially. For those that did get to experience New World and its magic, just know that you are not alone in wanting this game to succeed. Despite all the crap we went through, there was a game here. A damn good one at times. I suppose for the short while we still have New World, we should try to get as much out of it while we still have it. The game is still fully playable for the next year or so, at least until the end of 2026, is apparently what AGS is promising, but who knows if they will stick to that. At this point, they should really just make the game free to play. Let the people that were sitting on the fence for this game at least jump in and mess around if they want to. I know I'll probably at least log into New World when the last day is upon us and say goodbye. An MMO's last moments are incredibly bittersweet, but it's some of the most endearing interactions you'll see in gaming. There will be a massive crowd of players just coming together and sharing memories about a game they all had fun with, and New World definitely deserves that proper send-off. I think a lot of us thought that New World's story was not going to end so quickly, especially after its recent influx of players and just general positivity. I don't think anyone could have really seen this coming. I mean, we all kind of knew that Amazon wasn't the best publisher out there, but It just seemed like this game was going to actually turn everything around. But that's not what happened. A lot of us are still in shock, and you have a ton of content creators talking about this topic now. For the New World players out there, I do hope something does happen. Hopefully it's a publisher that comes in and saves the game, or maybe Amazon does reverse their decision, but I do hope something happens here. For the game to just disappear with no trace would be an utter shame, to say the least. I'm hoping it can somehow be preserved either through like a private server or something. Just don't let it die. I don't know, ladies and gents. This one's rough. This is definitely a tough one for us. I'm curious to see what you all have to say about it though. Were you actively playing New World? Are you sad to see it go? Comment below and let me know. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel to support my content, and hopefully I have a much more positive video next time. Yeah. This was rough.